We've just been on a roll with these easy episodes. Everything now, it's so simple. Croatian cuisine is simple. Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef Tad's Croatian Kitchen. Today we'll be making Asparagus and Eggs, or asparagus and eggs. Asparagus and eggs is a springtime favorite here in Croatia. People go all throughout the forest foraging for their own asparagus to come home and make this for their families. In lieu of wild asparagus that you forage yourself, store-bought asparagus does just fine, and this is the way my mom did it back in America. So today I'll be showing you two ways of making asparagus and eggs, the traditional way and then my way. My way is, I think, an improvement upon the traditional way, where we make a little sauce with the egg yolks out of oil and balsamic vinegar. The traditional way is you have the eggs and asparagus separate, but on the same plate. If that doesn't make sense, it will in a second once you see. Before we get started, I would just like to address the whiteboard for a quick second. I wrote Asparagus and Eggs, which is not the official word in Croatian for this meal. This is how we refer to it back at home. Officially in Croatian, it would be Asparagus s jajima, which was asparagus with eggs. And so if you want to go and find your own recipe, that's what you would put into Google. But this is what we said at home. It's the same thing, and that's why I'm going with it. So don't come at me for writing it incorrectly. Asparagus and eggs is a side dish, so you would want to serve this with something. Typically, it's with a meat main dish. My mom is actually making this tonight on day of filming, and she's serving it with grilled chicken, so that's one option. You could do it with naravni odresci, which we've done on the channel before, or any other meat dish that you really like with dinner and you're curious, you want to do something different with the sides. Asparagus and eggs is the way to go, and it is the season for it, so you have to do it now. The ingredients are extremely simple. It's asparagus and eggs. Wow, who would have thought that was an asparagus and eggs? We will be dressing them with olive oil, balsamic vinegar, salt, and pepper. So I have 500 grams of asparagus, which is just over a pound, and with that I'm going to pair 6 eggs. So before we get started, we need to prep the asparagus. I have them sitting in a glass of water. This was so that they did not get too wilted when they're in the fridge. I'm just going to move these out of the way and take off the rubber band. The bottom part of asparagus tends to be a little woody, and we want to get rid of that. So easiest way to do that is just snap it off. You'll take the asparagus you want to keep here, and then this can get tossed into compost. It's really simple. Just hold 2 sides of the asparagus and bend, and that one wants to fly away, but it'll break off at the point where it stops being super woody. And just do that for the rest of them. Now the asparagus has been prepped. We're going to wash this and then set them aside before it's time to cook. Over on the stove, I have a pot of water coming up to a boil. Once that comes up to a boil, I'll meet you over at the stove to start cooking. Once your water comes up to a boil, it's time to put in the eggs. Gently place the eggs in so they don't crack. Once the eggs are in, turn the heat down. We want this to simmer. We don't want the eggs jumping up around in case they might crack. We want to cook these for 10 minutes. So it's been about 9 minutes, so what I'm going to do now is create an ice bath. In here I have a bunch of ice, and I'm going to pour some water into it, and this is what we're going to use to stop the cooking. So at 10 minutes, we'll remove the eggs from our pot of water and put them directly into the ice bath. It's not all the way full because I have to take into account the volume change from when we add the eggs. But it's been 10 minutes now, so we have a slotted spoon, and we'll gently remove the eggs. I got 4 at once. Into the ice bath. And we'll do the rest. So eggs are over there. They're going to cool off, stop cooking, and in the meantime we're going to take our asparagus. We're just going to put them back into the same water. We want the asparagus to cook for about 5 minutes. At the end of the 5 minutes, we'll put them again into the ice bath. At that point, the eggs should be done, and we'll take them out, and we'll be able to start to peel. And after a few minutes, the asparagus have cooked, and I got almost all of them. But it's fine, we'll just put them right into the ice bath again. Turn off the heat, and we'll let these cool as well. Once everything has cooled, we'll head back over to the counter where we'll assemble everything. Now that everything has cooled down, we'll go ahead and peel the eggs. I always have a strangely hard time peeling eggs. It always kind of breaks apart. I was told to do it underwater. I've tried that, it doesn't really work. So I'm just gonna go nice and slow and peel all of these eggs. We want to try our hardest to keep the egg shape. We're not looking for, because we want the egg, we're gonna cut these, so we want to keep the egg shape as best as we can. So first I'll show you how to do the traditional method. So first we have the eggs here on the bottom, and we'll just take the asparagus and lay them right on top. I'm going to take about half the asparagus for this traditional way. One more I think is good. As such, and I'll leave these over here just to keep them out of the way since we're doing this, or we're going to use them for my way. Now to dress, we'll take olive oil, sprinkle olive oil on top, as such, some balsamic vinegar, just pour it really, and of course salt, and pepper, and for the traditional method, that's all you have to do. Asparagus jaja na tradicionalny način. So let's go ahead and give this one our taste for Greg. I like the stalks of asparagus much more than the flowers, so that's what I'll do. I want to get everything I can. So I have a piece of egg, yolk, and some asparagus, so let's go. The asparagus is tender, but it still has that nice crunch to it, and the eggs are super soft. The yolk kind of like, I kind of wish the egg was cooked a little bit more. That's on me, it should have gone a little bit longer, but 10 minutes is usually right for these eggs, so maybe the water wasn't as hot as I thought it was. Either way, it's still good, but what it lacks is my main gripe with the traditional method, is that everything is separate. So you have the eggs on the bottom, the asparagus on top, and the oil and vinegar, the seasoning basically just kind of strewn on top. It doesn't really come together as well as I think it should. And so this is where my method comes in. So for my method for asparagus and eggs, we'll need to take a bowl, and into the bowl, we'll add in the egg yolks. Come on, separate. And the egg whites, I'll tear up a bit and leave them on the plate. This is why I want to use the nicer looking ones for the traditional method, because it matters a whole lot more on that one. This essentially what we're going to do is mix everything together. My method is derived from the way my mom does it. She also has that gripe where she doesn't like how the traditional asparagus and eggs are so separate. So she decided to take what we did and then mix everything up on the plate, and then the egg yolks start to mix with the oil and the vinegar to make a kind of sauce. I'm basically just taking it a step further by making the sauce separate and putting everything together at the end. Let me just grab the asparagus first, and we'll place them on top of our eggs, and now we'll turn our attention to making the sauce. Don't worry too much if there's some egg white left on the egg yolks. It's not going to make too much of a difference. So with a whisk, we're going to go and start to whisk the egg whites, we'll start to whisk the egg yolks together. It'll make kind of like a paste. And we'll just very slowly add oil into the mixture while we're whisking constantly. Essentially what we're making is going to be like a mayonnaise, but we want it a little bit thinner than that. You have to go slow at first, and don't be afraid to stop and really start whisking hard. That way you can get the emulsion going. And as the emulsion starts to work or come together, then we'll start adding olive oil a little bit faster. But at this point, this thin little stream is going to be good enough. Ooh. Now this here I would say is the right consistency. As you see, it comes up, but it still flows very nicely. And now with a little bit of balsamic vinegar, adding to the sauce, and mix together again. This is also just to taste. I think I want a little bit more. I'm not terribly worried about breaking the emulsion because we really don't want too thick of an emulsion to begin with. But we also don't want two separate parts, so it's a little give and take. Once we're satisfied, we'll season now, salt, and pepper, and whisk again to combine. We should have a thin sauce, and we'll top that off. And what we're going to do is just pour it over the asparagus. Same fork and knife as before, and mix all together so that everything comes into kind of one cohesive unit. This is very different than the other way. You can already start to see. There might have been too much of the sauce, but don't worry about that. It's good to take some bread and eat it with. And there we have my way of asparagus and eggs. It's definitely not as pretty looking as the other way, but I think it works better. It tastes much better this way. And food is meant to taste good, not necessarily look good. If it does both, great, but your priority should be that it tastes good. So let's go and give my version its taste for Greg. Got some egg white, some asparagus. Let's get some of the sauce on top. The asparagus, of course, is still the same. It has the same crunch as the egg white, but the sauce is so much better this way. You get it in every bite. Now, everything has come together. It's not separate like it is in the traditional method. I know this is going to get me killed in Dalmatia. This is not at all how they do it. This is my own thing that I've done. And I do think it is much better than the other way. Perhaps it could look nicer, like I said, but food is meant to taste good, not necessarily look good. So here we have asparagus and eggs, 2 ways. Do better.